92.3 Nigeria Info. I'm Sam Oracle Chinedu. This right here is where we analyze the week's biggest stories, the ones that make the front page. Last week on the front page, we talked about UK-based Nigerians who are still on government's payroll, the shutdown of some bakeries in Port Harcourt by NAFDAC, an appeal court's ruling on the legitimacy of Rivers State lawmakers. The conversation is still ongoing, as it is with Rivers Politics. It's an episode every single week. Well, I'll introduce my guest shortly as he joins me. But we begin at the beginning with strength in numbers. This week, it was World Population Day, and the world did observe the day. Some residents of Port Harcourt have expressed concerns about the government's inability to conduct a population census for the past 18 years. In an interview with our correspondent, they urged the federal and state governments to focus on food production to address the country's shortages. Agenda advocate Sophia Daniels also urged families to engage in family planning and birth control methods to address the increasing population and poverty in Nigeria. As you may know, according to a United Nations report, the global population reached 7 billion. 7.9 billion. I beg your pardon, 7 billion in 2011, nearly 7.9 billion in 2021, and it's projected to grow to around 8.5 billion by 2030. Now, World Population Day is observed on July 11 every year, and the theme for this year is Leave No One Behind. That's interesting. Particularly with Nigeria, when it comes to population, there are so many uncertainties. And what we have as a population right now is estimated. But let's hear from those who agree to speak with us.
The estimated population of Nigeria, some people say 200 million plus, some people. The estimated population of Nigeria, some people. The estimated population of Nigeria, some people say 200 million plus, some people will say, when last did we have population in Nigeria? That was in 2006.
Food production have dropped drastically across the globe, not just in Nigeria, and we should be worried. Science is causing a lot of problem in our world, causing more harm than good to human existence.
How do the government even know what job opportunities to release to the masses? Today is World Population Day, and we do not even know how many we are in Nigeria.
You find a situation whereby somebody that is even not having a good job has like up to 4 wives and is boosting the population of the world. How do we now take care of the booming population with the low standard of living? This is really worrisome, because at the end of the day, crime rates will increase, a lot of social vices.
Well, I mean, it's not supposed to be funny, but the 4-wife statement, that was quite hilarious. Now, the gender advocate Sophia Daniels, who urged families to engage in family planning, spoke to our correspondent.
People are not seeing that we as humans are our own problem. We're still increasing in our population, having multiple wives, bringing in more children into our homes. I see a lot of problems. Food shortage, if you look at Northern Brothers, they would not agree with what I'm saying when it comes to birth control, contraceptive and feminine autonomy. We should use today as a means to advocate, sensitize people, sensitize families, traditional beliefs, religious beliefs. Let us cut down.
Now, we're live on Facebook and Twitter at Nigeria Info PH. That means you can watch as you listen. There are lots of questions connected to this. And the first one I want to ask is, were you counted in the 2006 census? I remember when that happened. I remember the officials going around. There were announcements on different media platforms. There was a lot going on. But I've also seen many people say they were not counted. We have what is an estimated population. So what that means is the estimation is based on the last time we had a census, the numbers we have, our birth rate, just some calculations here and there stating, okay, if this is what we were at this time, 5 or 10 years later, this is how many we should be. How have we been able to allocate resources to our people if we do not know how many we are? These are important questions begging more important answers. I'll be heading to my next topic shortly. But my guest is a professor of politics and governance, Ignatius Ajuru University of Education, Professor Ken Nweke. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, Oracle.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good. You?
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so I just talked about World Population Day, and it was observed yesterday, I believe. My question was, were you counted in the 2006 census?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Yeah, I was actually counted. But in the case of Nigeria, we've been struggling with having an acceptable census. Okay, and so the world is talking about celebrating World Census Day. How does that apply to us as a country? How do we view it? Severally, census had been deferred, severally.
We're supposed to have one this year as well.
Yeah. So last year it was supposed to have held, even before last year, under Buhari's government. So we've been working towards having that, but it hasn't worked. Even last year it didn't work, and then we're talking about this year, it may not also work because Nigerian things, appear not to be working because we ordinarily we should the essence of knowing our number, how many we are, and in terms of the infrastructure we have and all that. So just to determine, how government should do short-term, mid-term or long-term plans for the country, economic planning, including social and all that. But here, even when we have when we do census and we have our numbers, so how many times have you experienced government planning based on the number of the people? As I talk to you, in Igbo area, okay, from Obigbo end, Umebulu to Igbo area, you have massive number of persons who are living in those places. It will shock you, Oracle, that you have number of persons. But in terms of census, okay, I was even worried how to have to go about the demography, putting all the things in place to ensure that happens. So also it is in so many areas in Nigeria. And then all of those would ordinarily determine how government should plan in terms of infrastructure, roads, electricity, and the like, including the local governments that you talk about today that are talking about autonomy and all that. So, all these different tiers of government levels are not able to even use the existing census figures, even the projected ones, to say, okay, let's use this to plan. And so even talking about World Census Day, for me, is a mere, or probably we just, how many people talked about it in Nigeria here? Because it does not apply to us, because we do not know what it means to know how many we are and what we need to do with those figures.
Well, as you have said, it is important for the allocation of resources. If you know how many people there are, you know how many people to plan for. But I remember in 2006, there were talks about some officials in government inflating their own figures, because naturally with more people, that means more resources. So let's say, for example, the local government has 500,000 people, and those, in power make it 1.2 million or 2 million because they know something will come to them. Do you think this may have affected in some way, shape or form the figures we got at that time and how we have estimated it? Because we're working with the last census and we're projecting, okay, in 10 years we should be this. That maybe this 200 million, we are either way above or way below because of these inflations.
Of course, they must continuously be everything, Oracle, everything is tied to politics in this part of the world. One political leader or set of political leaders in an area, they want to be counted for influencing census figures for their areas, because one, they think also, they know ordinarily that this should be used for constituency creation, so to say. Like you have House of Assembly, this, that, and all that. Apart from the fact that there are number of these constituencies already recognized by law, and that you can't exceed this number, including wards, for each local government. Otherwise, what these ones do, because even there are some wards that are less than 20, right? And so some people are struggling to have these numbers inflated so that this will also count for them when new wards are created, new constituencies, political constituencies, so to say, are created, so that, when they talk about delivering, did you deliver? And so they are delivering with figures, fake figures. Are you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
manipulated, figures. So when you talk about manipulation during the 2006 census and probably the projected, for me, I would say that Nigeria's population of 200 million is underestimated. Are you get what I'm saying? So if people, as we speak right now, it marveled me to know that my own village, Ikwerengo, from Iboeche, I drove in, and I said, let me just visit some of the farm areas that we used to have those days. I drove into those areas to just check. Oracle, I was seeing story buildings in my own community that I didn't believe that, the part of that community had joined with Obibo. So what am I saying? Population is increasing more than you're expecting. So if you take that stretch of Umebulu area, Obibo area, Iboeche area, and all that, ordinarily, as we speak, a responsible and responsive government ought to do some internal roads and public infrastructure in those areas. But we do not know. People, they don't even know about these things because, they fall ignorance of what is happening, including the local governments. I know what I'm saying? So, but the point I'm making here is that we do not also know how much, we are. It shocked me, assuming that somebody, God forbid, you are kidnapped and put in an area. You won't even know that it is your village, your farm, where you used to farm and all that. There is explosion more than you're expecting. Are you know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
Yes, don't laugh. That is what it is. You can be taken to an area which, ordinarily you used to know. Okay, you think that you still recognize. Places have expanded in such a manner that beyond your own distance. So but we do not have responsive and responsible government that ought to understand the import of a number, understanding a number and using it for purposes of planning, not just for today but for the future.
I assure you, Professor, if and when an election comes, ballot boxes will get to those places.
Oracle, as I speak to you, that area of Iboeche has over 40,000 voters. Are you understanding? So let me tell you, if voters do not turn out in their numbers to vote and protect their votes, political leaders in that area, in my area, we can connive ordinarily, and allocate figures and use it, to say we delivered. And but that is how Nigeria has been. And so the issue of inflating, figures and using it for some benefits and all that will continue because Nigeria's system, of course, appears to have been structured, to for a lot of injustices against ourselves.
Okay. Well, moving from that to our president, Bola Tinubu, being re-elected as chairman of ECOWAS about 1 year after he took over leadership of the regional bloc. We have a break coming up in 2 minutes. In his acceptance speech, President Tinubu said he would focus on consolidating the value of democracy and upholding the interest of the regional body. Now, there are times where I feel, being a Nigerian, that the ECOWAS chairmanship is a birthright of Nigerian presidents. It seems almost all of them. I'm going to go through a list after the break. But every president I remember has headed ECOWAS at some point. In fact, some had the privilege and honor of doing it as military leaders and democratic leaders. And so it raises a lot of questions. The first being, as ECOWAS chairman, What benefit is supposed to come to the country if we've had a lot of our presidents head the regional bloc? How exactly is that? What value are we supposed to get as Nigerians if our president is the ECOWAS chairman? We have that conversation after the break. Please stay with us.
Talk and more talk on Nigerians' #1 talk station.
This country needs a marshal.
It still is the front page on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Sam Oracle Chinedu here. I still have my guest, Professor Ken Nweke, who is a professor of politics and governance with Ignatius Ajuru University of Education. You're welcome once again, sir.
Thank you.
Now, the question before the break. Our president has been re-elected as ECOWAS chairman. What value should leading ECOWAS bring to a country?
What value? Ought to bring value, regional development, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Ideas, policies that should culminate in some level of economic transformation, you know, cross-border, you know, countries, you know, especially within the West African sub-region. And well coordinated, and even when they talk about having a single currency thing, they were advocating, so that you build, a more formidable economic bloc.
Regional economy.
Yeah, regional economy.
Yeah.
That, of course, you'll be able to carry some of the countries that are unable to, fend for themselves. Nigeria, with the enormity of resources available to her, and then a few other countries, they're very small in number in West Africa. How many? Just about 2-3 hours, you will cross Benin into, or 4 hours into what do you call it? Not even up to that, into Togo, okay, and then to Ghana. Some of these countries are very small, compared to Nigeria, and so when you have this West African regional bloc, and then have ECOWAS, which its responsibilities cut across economic, political, social, cultural, becoming the head of that regional body ought to push a number of things for us as a country. We take advantage of some of the criminality that I could call that, transborder criminalities. Being a chairman of ECOWAS should be able to shoulder some level of responsibilities in terms of coordinating these the heads of these West African states in forming a formidable, force to check some of these infiltrations. Are you know what I'm saying? So, because some of these issues that threaten our national security are transborder in nature.
Yeah.
So, becoming
terrorism in particular.
Yes, terrorism. Becoming the head of ECOWAS, of course, gives you that
an edge,
the latitude to explore, other avenues in terms of collaboration with your counterparts to check some of these things. But Oracle, you see what happens? Somebody becomes chairman of ECOWAS for purposes of for me, it doesn't make any news that is re-elected. In fact, since I was born till now that I am getting too old, I've been hearing of ECOWAS. I've been reading of ECOWAS. And as a political scientist, I understand the import of, such regional institution, organization. I understand the import. The United Nations organization, UNO, the African Union, OPEC. We understand, the import of these international institutions and organizations. And then for the president of Nigeria, severally, like I said, since I was born now, you can't count. Begin to count how many times Nigerian heads of state or presidents had become ECOWAS. And so what have you not been able to achieve? Even with the enormity, we shoulder most of the financial responsibilities for ECOWAS.
Yes, we are the largest donor.
Yes, we are.
We're the largest donor.
We are. And so for me, the best bet you get from all of this is when you have a coup, around this West African sub-region, and then you have some level of intervention, and then you create a jamboree for people to just fly in and fly out, and then we have Babariga and no, it's not helping matters. Oracle. For me, it's not something that we even need to waste time to discuss. We should discuss better things than talking about chairmanship of ECOWAS, somebody being elected for.
Yeah, it's important, Prof, because first of all,
I'm saying that I'm not saying. I've told you the import of what these international institutions and organizations, yes, what they are import. But I am saying that in the case of ECOWAS and Nigeria, though we take off most of the financial responsibilities for ECOWAS. Ordinary Nigerians were asked, waiting in come out, waiting in bring.
Well, for context of what Prof is saying, there are countless reports which have been confirmed that Nigeria's donations, let me use that word, to the ECOWAS, contribution financially, is more than 10 other countries combined. So we really contribute financially to ECOWAS. But for our leaders who have headed the regional bloc, General Yakubu Gowon was founding chair in 1972. Olusegun Obasanjo became ECOWAS chairman in 1978 during his military run. Muhammadu Buhari in 1985 when he was military ruler as well. Ibrahim Babangida, Sani Abacha, Abdulsalam Abubakar, Umar Musa Yar'Adua, Goodluck Jonathan, Muhammadu Buhari again as a civilian president, and Bola Tinubu. So Obasanjo is the only person who did not return, during his military. He just had that and he wasn't. So we have had a lot of Nigerian presidents.
Almost both former heads of state, and elect. So is that news for us?
Well, the defense to that, or the response rather, would be it's a work in progress. You listed a couple of advantages that should come. So maybe starting at 1, going to 2.
Starting from 1972.
It takes time.
I was born in 1972.
It takes time, Prof.
52 years after.
Development is a process.
Development is a process.
It takes time.
And so it takes forever.
We can't
for development.
We can't snap.
And people are passing, generations are passing and getting near to their graves.
We can't snap our fingers and fix. Let's take the issue of inflation right now, which is you cannot just fix inflation. It takes some policies, plans, projects, and slowly but surely people will see the results.
Jamboree.
Well, Professor, let's move from ECOWAS to the next headline.
Thank you.
This week, the police arrested a man who attempted suicide as a protest over the country's difficult socioeconomic situation. I'm opening the phone lines shortly, by the way. The man, identified as Shuaibu Yeshua, had on Monday climbed a 120-feet mast at a radio station in the Katampe area of Abuja, threatening to take his life before he was persuaded to change his mind. The spokesperson of the FCT Police Command, Josephine Ade, said in a statement that the suspect is presently in custody and in stable condition. Now, the headline for this story across different news platforms is Police Arrest Suicide Survivor. And double-clicking on that, yes, he was taken into custody, but eventually we heard that he was stable, and I think some counsel/therapy, was recommended for him. But you would read many reports from many years about people who survived suicide and were arrested. As a matter of fact, because you want to ask, why is the police arresting such a person? Well, they are backed by law. Our laws, Section 327 of the Criminal Code, states very clearly, which I would like you to go and check. Any person who attempts to kill himself is guilty of a misdemeanor and is liable to imprisonment for 1 year. Prof, if a person chooses to take their own life and does not succeed, how exactly will prison make it better? And this is in our constitution.
Now, Nigeria moved away from calling that place you called now, that place, correctional centers. We like nomenclature. Ordinarily, somebody gets imprisoned, supposed to undergo several rehabilitation processes to get back to normal. It's assumed that you committed a crime, but the one who commits the crime of taking his life, attempting to take his life, it's something that has to do with psychology and all that, and so that person needs to be worked upon. Enough rehabilitation that person needs. A lot for anybody to say, I want to take my life. Oracle, let me tell you, the man who had demonstrated that probably what is happening for those who have not been able to demonstrate that is even worse than the man who climbed. What is happening? I was discussing with a friend from Enugu. And I was telling him yesterday, I said, I don't even know how Nigerians, I don't know how we survive. And I said to somebody yesterday to say, for instance, in Rivers State, assuming that God did not allow the kind of feud that is happening in Rivers State between master and son, how would ordinary civil servants in Rivers State have enjoyed 2-3 promotions at the same time?
And you're calling that an act of God?
Yes, it is an act of God, yes. For those of us who are Christians. Yes, because the Nigeria is surviving up to today. What is carrying us, Oracle, is faith in God. And we have always left our survival in the hands of God. And that's why we are where we are. Ordinarily, you imagine that a government was there for 8 years and civil servants were not promoted, plus the part of Amaewhule's government when he was having a feud with the federal government that he couldn't also promote, added to that one. And then we had more people not promoted. And so, assuming that God did not send this God-given governor of ours today to, remove the chains, I'll still ask, how would an average civil servant in Rivers State even manage? That confusion will continue for Christians who believe.
Okay. Well,
for the interest of people. So the point I'm making, Oracle, is that the man who attempted to kill himself, ordinarily are taking him back to prison, ought to be some rehabilitation. But our prisons or correctional centers, as they are now called, structured to rehabilitate, to bring people back to normal. And so if you bring them back to normal within 1 year, and they come back to the same society to meet same things, so what have you been able to achieve? Because as I speak to you, Oracle, there's hunger in the land. We are talking about a crate of egg. I said I bought 4.9. You are saying 5.3 within 48 hours. And I bought granite the other day, 200 naira. It was this tomato, what? This tomato, the smallest tomato cup or something. And I was asking myself, and then yet Nigerians are here walking on the street. In fact, you have more walking corpses on the streets of Nigeria than the man who attempted to climb 120 feet of mast.
Well, Prof, we believe that we are heading in the direction of progress. We're hoping that happens soon. But I would like to particularly commend our lawmakers, because early this year, in March, a bill seeking to abolish jail term for attempted suicide passed second reading. It proposes to amend Section 327, which I read earlier, and sponsored by Francis Wave, lawmaker representing Ughelli South, North, Udu Federal Constituency of Delta State. Now, that section says any person who attempts to kill himself is guilty of a misdemeanor and liable to imprisonment. But the amendment to that section says any person who attempts to kill himself is guilty of misdemeanor and is liable to compulsory counseling and community service for a period not less than 6 months. I think this is better. Counseling, rehabilitation, should put that person in a better position. Well, we have lots more to talk about, but I'd like to hear from you now. The numbers to call are 0817-923-0002. 0817-923-0003. WhatsApp is 080-903-06-416. We're live on Facebook and Twitter. You can watch as you listen. More importantly, drop your comments on those platforms. We've talked about World Population Day. We've talked about our president being re-elected, ECOWAS chairman. And we've talked about the police arresting a suicide survivor. Please turn off your radio as you call. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name?
Yeah, Christian calling from Bonny Island.
Go ahead, Christian.
Yes, let me talk on that ECOWAS
chairmanship.
Appointing Nigerian president most times as ECOWAS chairman. There's a lot Nigeria would have benefited.
Okay.
But because we go ahead in many occasions presenting ourselves and planting ourselves as giant of Africa, and we leave the important things we ought to do to help this smaller nations and also to benefit from them. Do you know that in Benin, in the Atlantic, they also have oil? In Semedia, they have oil. In Togo, they have oil. In short, all the West African coast along, they all have oil. But the difference is that they don't have commercial quantity. When we say commercial quantity, the money the expatriates will spend on their machineries and paying the workers and so on, by the time the crude oil gets to upstream, you understand, the money will not be, there won't be much profit. But what Nigeria would have done is take over, harness these oil wells, use it since Nigeria is a large producer, take part of it as they refine it, and give them part as refined for their own local use also. It will go a long way to solve this oil problem that we are running around. The moment Nigeria refines oil, all these countries, they depend on Nigeria for refined oil, for diesel and petrol. And they even buy it more costlier than what the pump price here. That is why we find this oil scarce in Nigeria as we talk to you. Up to Senegal, it's the same thing. We are the ones mining oil for them. Then again, you go to Chad and Niger, you find out that most of the cattle they bring to Nigeria that you think they are from the north, it's not from Nigeria north. Though. These areas are the ones producing most of these cattle. By the time they get to Nigerian border, they escalate and increase the price of this thing. And by the time it finally gets to the south here, it becomes extremely exorbitant.
Okay, so I have to move on now. Very quickly, what would you expect of a president who heads ECOWAS? What kind of benefits should we have? Very quickly.
Come again, please. What the president has or what Nigeria can benefit?
Yes, what we should benefit.
That is exactly what I'm telling you. Finance their oil wells, drill it, take it, refine it, on agreement, give them part for their own consumption or for their own sale, whatever, give them part of it for their benefit, whichever way they agree upon, and take some.
Okay, so basically a trade agreement. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Samuel Rakuchine.
Good morning, what's your name?
Chinke Daniel Imogeto Zwako.
All right, go ahead.
Yes, I want to commend you first of all for bringing your guest. Let me look at what he said concerning reverse politics. I am an Abian. Zwak is an Abia, sharing common boundary from where he himself is coming from. That's Ikwerengwo. What he said about population is exactly what it is. He has this place, within that place, Umuebule and Swako here, because we share common boundary with them. It's fastly developing, population increasing, and I don't think we are doing the most to capture them all. And what he said concerning reverse politics, I don't know that those that are well-read, professor, that there is so much trust in God. Because what he says is in Romans chapter 8, verse number 28.
Wow.
That says, all things work for good to them that love God.
Okay.
So, God converts evil into raw material to bring his goodness in our life.
Thank you, Chinke Daniel. I have to take other calls. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Tinubu.
Good morning, what's your name?
My name is Prof.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, the Prof in the studio, I think I knew him when I was in Ignatius Ajuru University, and he has spoke quite extensive this morning and educate us on the issue of census in Nigeria. I remember 2006 during the census time, I was a student in Ignatius, and I was also an August staff in that census. And I remember what happened, particularly in my local government. I remember that some politicians, after the process of counting, inflate the figure to favor their ward and their constituents. I remember in communities set up task force on how to increase their number. because they believe that at the end of this census, there are benefits that will accrue to it by the Nigerian government. But after that, not only we spend so much money to get this figure, but I can tell you that the government of this country have not made single plan to even justify the census they did at that time. So, by my own position, I would say that if the government will not make any further plan concerning census in Nigeria, then they should not spend any further money to do another census.
Well, thank you very much. I understand. Even though the one that was conducted in 2006, about 18 years ago, was not done properly, it doesn't take away the need for us to know how many we are. There are so many reasons. The benefits are boundless as to a country understanding the strength of its human resource, right? An entire hour or even 5, 10 would not be enough. So we didn't do the 2006 one well, agreed. Many people complain about it. But there is need for a census, a comprehensive census. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, SOC.
Good morning, what's your name?
Ezekiel, calling from Ubumini.
Go ahead, Ezekiel.
The constant ECOWAS chairman of Nigerian presidents is the way of extorting our natural resources. I don't know if you are getting me. The African countries are using this platform compensating our presidents in order to be giving them what we have. Imagine since the time of Gowan till date, if it is or if it were a better thing that we bring development in Nigeria, would they allow Nigerian presidents to be the chairman of ECOWAS year in, year out?
No, hold on, Ezekiel. Hold on.
What I'm saying in effect is that it does not give us any benefit rather than the person or the persons involved.
Okay, so I understand your position. It's like when a person says we've not felt government's presence. It doesn't mean it's not there. You just haven't felt it. Now, the chairmanship is rotational. Other member states also have their leaders heading the bloc. But Nigeria seems to be on that list more than required. You know, it's the frequency of Nigerian presidents being ECOWAS chairman is clearly more than others, right? But we've had Ghana, again, it's West African states. So let's not make it seem like it's only reserved for Nigerian presidents. No. But we have to admit that there is a bit of a bias because we are a large country, we donate more. You know, there are many reasons why. So please, let us get our facts right. And yes, these presidents are entitled because they are elected. In the report, you would hear President Tinubu was re-elected. So there was an election, which they were very likely positioned to win. All right, we have just a few minutes left. I have a comment waiting on WhatsApp. Sam and the Prof. The continual reappointment of Nigeria President as ECOWAS chairman is inconsequential for me because it doesn't put food on my table. As for the census, it's a shame that we don't even know how many we are in this country. Whenever you ask of the figure, you will hear we are 200 million since 2019. And for the guy that almost took his life, the people that arrested him failed to address his demands. All they were concerned is stating the law about suicide. There's nothing correctional about the correctional center. Simply goodness. From Alaka here says. All right. And to what will be the last of our conversation, that's as much as we can squeeze in. This week, the Supreme Court declared it is unconstitutional for state governors to hold on to funds meant for local government administrations. In his lead judgment read by Justice Amaewhule, it noted that the 774 local government councils in the country should manage their funds. So this is a statement on financial autonomy. Funds should be allocated to the councils without interference from state governors. Lots of reactions have followed that. I won't be able to take all of them because I have just 2 minutes. Prof, your take. Are local governments finally going to be autonomous?
Well, for me, I don't see anything changing with the financial autonomy that has been finally pronounced by the Supreme Court. Ab initio, Nigeria's local government system has been structured deliberately to feather the nests of the political class.
Prof, we don't have time. If every state in Nigeria has a local government election, because now we have over 20 that do not, every state has local government election. We have council chairmen. Do you think we'll be closer to achieving autonomy at that level?
It's a temporary pseudo-autonomy. Because, of course, the state governments, don't forget, the state governors have every instrument at their disposal. Like I've said to you, that the system is structured ab initio. And so it's not easy to even introduce any correctional measures in terms of, address this with financial autonomy. Who will conduct the election? Who will fund the managers of the election?
Okay, we have to take this break now. And I'll wrap up after the break. Please stay with us.